Hello and welcome to another Tunisian crochet tutorial. So today we will be making the Baroco placemat together, and I'm going to be splitting this tutorial into two parts because it might get a little bit too long. So you can find the pattern on my blog. This is pattern which has got the placemat in two different dimensions, so you can have like a smaller placemat just for plate, and then there is a larger size as well that you can use as a kind of like a centerpiece on your festivity table or for serving dish or something like that. Or you can even make it into a blanket, because it's fairly easy and straightforward how to scale up the pattern. So first things first, so what we will need. So for my placemat, I've used a worsted weight yarn in two colors. So as for the festive period, I selected red and green, and I used Friends wool worsted, which is 100% wool, and there were two colors. It's a 114 and 55, but I can't tell you from on top of my head which color corresponds to which number. And then I've also used 6.5 millimeter Tunisian crochet hook. So in terms of the yarn, so for the smaller placemat you will need one skein of each. These are, by the way, 50 grams skeins. So for the small one, 50 grams of red and 50 grams of green would be enough. For the larger ones you need two, and this is what I had left over after, from two skeins of each after I made the larger placemat. So the standard dimensions for the smaller placemat is 15 by 14 inches, and for the larger 22 by 17. And in terms of the stitches or techniques that you will use is Tunisian simple stitch and stranded color work. I'm using a technique where I'm trapping the loose ends at the back. So as you can see, even though I'm crossing the yarn over large sections, I'm not producing a large floats. So this is ideal for items that will be used a lot, so you don't snag on these. Now in terms of the stitch pattern repeat, so I've got my color chart here. So the stitch pattern is worked over 13 stitches, so that's the multiple. So if you would like to make a bigger or smaller project, of course you first swatch to see how many stitches and rows you have per your 4-inch square or 6-inch square, and then so you will multiply the 13. You will do multiples of 13 and plus 2, because we need to add one stitch on each edge. And then this stitch pattern is worked over 20 rows. So it might seem quite a lot, but once you get into the stitch pattern and once you get into the swing of things, you will see the lots of the rows actually repeat to create this beautiful stitch pattern. So today we are going to start working a few of the rows, and in the next part of the tutorial we will finish all the 20 rows. So without further ado, let's dive in. So for the demonstration of the sample, I'm going to be using different yarn than I used for the actual placemat, but just because I think that when I demonstrate in chunky weight yarn, it's much easier to see the stitches and techniques that I'm using rather than a thinner yarn. Okay, so the blue is going to be color A, which corresponds to green, and the orange will be color B, and that corresponds to the red or the pink on the diagram that I have here. Okay, so you will work the first foundation row and the last bind of row in green. So we will start with a slip knot and with a multiple of chains, however multiple you are going to work. So for the smaller placemat you would chain 54, for the larger 80. Today I'm only going to do one stitch pattern repeat for you, so I will chain 13 plus 2, that's 15. So chains. Once you have your slip knot, you will then place your loop on the hook, and then you will yarn over or yarn around the hook and pull it through the loop on the hook, and that's your chain 1. And then you will repeat that, yarn over, pull through the loop on the hook for how many chains you need. So in this case I need 15. Okay, so once we've got 15 chains, we then turn our work around, and as you can see on the back of your chains there are these bumps. So I like to start my foundation row working into these bumps, just to give the edge, the bottom edge of the project, a nice and neat shape. Okay, so we are going to be working or inserting the hook from front to back under the bump, yarn over and pull up a loop, and that each loop corresponds to 1 stitch. So we've got 2 loops, so we have 2 stitches on our hook. We're going to continue working like that into each bump. So we've got 4, 5, 6 and so on, all the way to the end. So Tunisian crochet, as you might know or might not know, is worked in 2 steps, and that's forward and return pass. On forward pass you are adding your stitches on the hook, and on the return pass you are working your stitches off the hook. So we are now at the end of our forward pass for row number 1. I've got 15 loops as I wanted, corresponding to 15 stitches. Now it's time for your return pass, and for all the rows of this project we will work standard return pass, which means that we will first work 1 chain or yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2, all the way to the end. So at the end of the return pass you will only have 1 loop left on the hook, and that's the loop that is the edge stitch for your next row. So you won't work all your loops of the hook, there will be 1 remaining like so. Okay, and also to mention that the first and last stitch will be always in your color A. So once you start working your placemat, you will see that we worked the bottom edge in color A or in the green, top edge as well, and then you will also have the right and left edge stitches all in color A or in green. Okay, so now once we have our first foundation row done, we can progress to the actual color chart. So for the first row, it says that we have 3 stitches in color A. So you will find, if you can't read the color chart quite well here in the tutorial, don't despair. The color chart is also on my blog, and you can magnify it to be able to see the count properly. So for the first row of the color chart, we have 3 stitches in color A. So we are going to go under the front vertical bar, and we are going to be working Tunisian simple stitches throughout the project. So it's just 1 stitch that you'll be repeating and just changing colors. So it's pretty straightforward. So Tunisian simple stitch worked under the front vertical bar. So you go from right to left, under there, yarn over and pull up a loop. So that's one Tunisian simple. Repeat that 2 more times, 2 and 3. Okay, now the color chart says that we should change to color B and work 2 stitches in color B. So that's what we are going to do. You will take your color B, and what I like to do when I'm joining colors, I don't like to do another slip knot, because that introduces a knot which I don't like somewhere in the middle of my project. So what I like to do, I only create a loop from the yarn that I'm adding into the project, and go into the next stitch, put the loop on the hook and work the stitch that I'm supposed to work, so in this case Tunisian simple. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock that color in there. So what I do on the back, I take the long end of the new color and I wrap it around the color A and the short end as well, and that's going to lock that color in place. I'm still holding on to it because it's not locked in completely firmly, but firm enough for it to be in the project. And then we've got to do one more stitch in color B. Okay, you can adjust the tension of the yarn at the back, so I'm pulling on the color A just to bring the stitches together so we don't have a big gap in where we joined the colors. But you don't want to pull on it so hard that the stitches will be kind of like tied in like a sardines in a tin, because that would show. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I then need to work 3 stitches in color A. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the color A and I cross it over color B. Okay, and that's going to lock it in place. And going to work 3 Tunisian simple stitches. That's 1, 2 and 3. It's pretty straightforward. Now I'm picking up color B again and working 2 stitches in color B. So I don't want to pick up the short end, don't make the mistake I almost made. So I'm going to get the long end and work 2 stitches in B, like so. Again, I'm adjusting the tension at the back, picking up color A, and now I've got 3 more stitches left. However, I've got 4 stitches here, so I'm going to tell you what to do with the very last stitch. So let's work 3 stitches, 1, 2 and 3, like so. Okay, and then this is the last stitch is called the end stitch. So what we need to do, we need to work under both of these strands that you have on the very edge of the project. So we're going to insert the hook under both of these, yarn over and pull up a loop, and that gives you that last stitch. They will keep your edge in one color. So now we are going to work again standard return pass. What we also need to change colors correspondingly to the colors that we worked on the forward pass. So we need to yarn over and pull through 1. That's how we start the return pass, and then yarn over, pull through 2, until we get to the point where the second loop from your hook is in the other color that you are using. So in my case, orange. So once the second loop from the top of the hook or the tip of the hook is in the other color, I need to change. So I'm going to drop color A, and again I'm picking up color B, but I'm placing it over. So I'm placing that over the strand, and this locks the color change in place, so you wouldn't have gaps between stitches. And then I need to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now I'm back to color A and working 3 stitches off, back to color B, 1 and 2, and then work the rest of the row in color A, like so. Okay, so far we worked the foundation row and we worked the first row of your color chart, the row number 2 of the color chart. So we need to start with 2 stitches in A. Don't forget that you already have 1 stitch on your hook. It's not on the color chart, on my color chart here, but it needs to be still worked, so we mustn't miscount the stitches. So these 2 stitches here in the green color, these are after the edge stitch. So 1 and 2, like so. Then we've got 2 in B, so we are changing to B. Again, I don't want to pick up my short end. Okay, so 2 in B, 1 and 2. We are still working into the front vertical bars. So this stitch here, as you can see, this is where I was joining the color, so the bottom of the stitch is slightly different. So as you work more and more rows, you can just gently tug on the stitch just to bring it to the same height, because it can become a bit loosened as you work your project. Okay, so after 2 stitches in B, I've got 2 stitches in A again. So 1 and 2. Then I've got only 1 in B here in the middle. 1 in B, 2 in A, 2 in A, 2 in B, 1 and 2, and at the end we've got 2 in A, 1 and 2. The edge stitch is always in A, so we are going to work the edge stitch and standard return pass, like so. And changing colors on the return pass as per the forward pass. Like so. Okay, so we are going to now work row number 3. So we'll start in 1 stitch in A, 2 stitches in B, 2 stitches in A, now we've got 3 stitches in B, 1, 2 and 3, 2 stitches in A, so we are here at this point of the project, 2 stitches in B and 1 in A, 2 stitches in B and 1 in A, and the end stitch, like so. So as you can see, the stitch pattern here is starting to emerge. If you have a bigger multiple, then your project is already looking much nicer. Okay, and working standard return pass as before, changing colors as you need to. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the correct color and finish off. For row number 4, we are starting with 2 stitches in B. So I already have 1 loop on the hook. For the edge stitch in B, that's fine. Getting my B out and 2 stitches in B, 2 in A, 1 and 2, and then 2 in B. Okay, 2 in B. Okay, so I can show you here how to actually lock your floats. So as you can see that there's a float over 3 stitches. I would not normally lock this float, I would just keep it as it is. but just for the purpose of this tutorial, so you would know. So we are going to work over and under this strand of yarn, and that basically creates an extra strand that crosses this and locks it in place. So what I mean is I should now change to color A and work one stitch in A. So I'm going to go into the stitch as normal for Tunisian simple stitch. I'm also going to get that yarn on the hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. So that's my working under the stitch. Now I need to change as per the color pattern to B and work 2 stitches in B. So I'm going to get the B and just work normal, and this corresponds to working over the strand of yarn. And one more, and as you can see, this created an extra cross or crossing over the float, and that locked it in place, so it's now nice and short. Okay, so you worked with your hook under the strand of yarn and then over. We will need 2 in A, and then we finish off with 2 in B. Okay, and 2 in B, and this is again interesting part of the project because we are at the end and we still need to work one more stitch, so we still need to change back to color A, insert the hook into the stitch like so, and again working standard return pass with changing color. So we finished row number 4. So I would recommend that you work a rows, the color chart, the following few rows up to this section where you've got 5 stitches in color B. So I will meet you at the beginning of this section. In the project, that would be row 9. Okay, so practice few rows of working in the pattern, and I'll meet you back there, and we will work the remainder of the stitch pattern together, and we will look at how to bind off your project as well.